Okay, good morning, everyone. I think we can start, and I hope you had a good night rest. Um, and I hope you've been thinking through what we went through yesterday, and that you are motivated enough to consider these issues. Um, so, before we get into the issues we need to deal with today, I just wanted to know whether there are questions. If there are questions, I'll give you time to bring them forward. Um, or if you have um, thoughts, issues you want to bring up, I'll give you time to do that as well. Okay. So let me share my screen. Okay. What we'll be discussing today, um, we'll be looking at steps to research reproducibility, and then we'll look at the initiatives that have been established or been promoted to enhance reproducibility. That is what we will be looking at today. But before we do that, I would like to just give recap, a brief recap of what we did yesterday. So we started with defining what reproducibility is all about. And I gave you this exercise that was quite interesting, and I hope you enjoyed it, to be more traditional, to be more archaic, to be more old-fashioned. I remember a time I traveled somewhere, and somebody was giving experience she had. She said she moved to an apartment, and the apartment was being fixed, and for 1 week there was no light, no electricity in the house, so she couldn't use her phone and so on. So it reminded her when she was really growing up in the village, and she was able to become natural. So the information technology age we are sometimes makes us not to really think things in the way we would have been more critical. So that exercise was good, and then we were able to differentiate between reproducibility from replication. And I guess that was quite clear to you. Then we went through the ultimate goal of science. What is science all about? Why do we do what we do as scientists? Why do we have such a meeting? To learn skills, to do our work well? Why do you wake up in the morning and you go to your office? You sit there doing your work as a scientist. And this relates to the nuggets I have put on the YouTube channel. If you have not watched it, it talks about the why. Why are you a scientist? And the ultimate goal is to make our society a better place. That is what we all need to put our hands to doing, to achieving that. And then we went through the Merton's ethos of modern science, the values we should have. He mentioned those 4 cornerstones we should have as scientists. So thinking about that, it highlights the fact that when you go and you do your research, I gave an example yesterday and we started discussing that, and I mentioned few of you who brought some points. Particularly, I noted Adewumi and Valerie, who brought some issues, and how you feel if somebody goes out to publish first research topic you're doing. How do you feel about that? Why should we feel that way? If in the end, the goal we are pursuing, we're getting it, maybe from somewhere else. So it's something that we need to think about. So I motivated you of the need to think of reproducibility in your research. And then we reviewed some cases of research fraud, and you saw what is going on, and you saw that your paper has been published is not an indicator of the success story of that research. It's not an indicator that the ultimate impact has been made by that research. It can go through and pass the review process of the big journals as well. You can see each of those papers were published in the top ranking journals in the fields. So lots of things are happening. Lots of things are happening. It's not enough really to highlight those things that are happening there. They are pointers to us as scientists to think of how we are doing our own work. What is our motivation? How can I improve to ensure that this ultimate goal is met? Our society is there to us. And so these case studies you reviewed highlighted that point. So please, let's continue to think about, and I gave you the website, Retraction Watch, which is a website that collects information of studies that have been retracted. So that is where we ended yesterday, and I gave you the project I expect you to be doing. And yesterday I mentioned that the nuggets I have given to you, each group, and I hope group 1 has prepared theirs. I mentioned yesterday that this morning we will give group 1 the opportunity to tell us what their nuggets. 2 minutes, you tell us. But I will come back to that. It will be after our first short break. Group 1 is going to tell us what the nugget is all about. Give us a special quote. What did you like about it? Just tell us in 2 minutes. We'll take it on. And then group 2, you will do yours immediately after our lunch break. We'll start with group 2 to tell us their nuggets and what they want us to learn from that. In 2 minutes, this will happen. Okay. So we'll continue in that way. I will come back to when group 3 we always remember when you come in, I usually mute you automatically if you're not speaking, because we are actually recording this. And let me say that the videos of yesterday are on the YouTube channel. So you can access them if you want to review them again. And then the lecture slides are in a folder in a Dropbox called lecture slides. So you can pick them up from there if you want to have the slides. Um, I will put all the slides there each day. At the end of the day, I will put the lecture videos in the Dropbox. I mean, in the YouTube channel. So feel free to take those. Feel free to share the links to your colleagues, um, and I think that will be motivating for them. And yesterday, I brought the issue of the Frontiers seminar series. We are planning starting this Sunday, and several of you have registered. If you have not registered, I sent the email to everyone so that you see what we have in stock. I think it's going to be an exciting journey. So please join us next Sunday. I will be presenting, introducing the journey we are into this year. It's very exciting for African scholars like you, like me. And I mentioned the weekly nuggets too. Some of you have been putting your comments there. Yeah, that is good. Let's keep the conversation going. That is the only way as Africans we can continue to motivate ourselves. And I hope that with these efforts, good things will begin to happen. We begin to improve. We begin to think um, in a direction that is unifying. We can collaborate across board and so on and so forth. Okay, so now let me know if you have questions. That was the review of the review of yesterday. If you have questions, please.
Okay, good morning, Dr. Bright.
Good morning,
Good
Adewumi.
morning, sir. Yes, sir. Thanks again. Okay, so mine, thank you for the video. At least it helps to, give me a better understanding of some of the things that I couldn't grasp in the course of the presentation.
Mm,
And so so far one of the question I was asking, I know that you mentioned it yesterday, talking about, some of us having concerns to, like, this re- reproducibility, concept. I was just thinking that, okay, does it apply to, public health research? Then aside from that, yeah, that's one of the questions I had. Even though I know that you mentioned it, you were telling us that irrespective of the, arm of science that we belong to, that we should know that, there's a way that it can be, applied in our various field. So I really want to clarify that. And also as regards the the Thursday group work you gave us, yeah, I saw that you requested for, even though you had already given us a document that shows what exactly you want from us, and to an extent I have an understanding. But is the mini protocol I'm now looking at, that when you said mini protocol, what are you really expecting us to do? Are you expecting us to have, every bit of the comprehensive protocol, every aspect of the protocol? There are certain parts of the protocol that you want us to discuss about before drafting the questionnaire. I understood that at the end of the day, we'll have some questions which all the groups we add, bring in their questions. Then we eliminate those ones that were, that were repeated. And at the end of the day, we have a questionnaire which every one of us will be opportune to, fill. And then we go back to our different groups to analyze and do all that. But the question here is that the mini protocol, what exactly are you, looking at to get from us as regards the mini protocol? Thank you, sir.
mhm. Yeah, that's so many questions.
Just to, sir, the
Yeah.
mini protocol, what exactly you want, and that does reproducibility concept apply to public health research? Yeah.
Okay, I will try my best to answer that, Adewumi.
Yes, sir.
One thing is this um, the concept of reproducibility. I think if you capture it, what it is, which is more or less transparency in what you do, more or less transparency in what you do. Let me just share this link. Somebody's asking for the nuggets. Yeah, so you can find it from the chat there. I hope it goes well. Um, if it doesn't open, let me know. So um, transparency is one of the synonyms we got yesterday. It means that what you have done, somebody would take it the way you have described it and go use the same thing you have used to derive what you have done and get the same thing. At least up to that point is clear. So you can see it. You can see it from the perspective of a mother. You are making the food. You make the food. You serve your kids, and they eat. And then you started thinking, what if I'm not there? For instance, one day for their lunch, what happens? And then you decided to write a mother's recipe with flowers, with hearts, how you take the rice, you wash it, how you take the pot, when you put this, when you put that, when you do this, when you do that, the amount of heat you use, how much time you cook it. And if you do this, you tell your child, if you do this, you will come out with the same rice mommy makes. And you leave the notes and you go out. You're not there. And your child comes in and needs lunch. And you say, take the note I have at the dining table and do as I have directed you. Did you get the point?
Yes, sir. I do.
Yeah.
So I yes, sir.
And your child does that. Your child does that and gets the rice the same way you have made it. Your goal is achieved. So the reproducibility we're talking about here is to be so transparent that somebody in your absence can um, get the same results you get. And so if that is the concept and is understood, whether you are in the arts, sculpture, whether you are doing ethnography, whether you're doing social science, whether you're doing public health in the field, at the university you're teaching, whether you're doing chemistry, whatever you're doing, the concept of reproducibility should be applicable. That is my belief. The way the way it is applied may be different across field, but the point is that that concept is applicable across fields. And the point of this course really is to motivate you to think, to have self-examination, to have self-criticism. What I do, is it for me? And yesterday we answered that question. And if it's not for me, can I do it better? Can I do it for the greater good? Can somebody trust what I have done? Can I be so transparent that I say, well, go to my notes, just do that. You see, you get the same thing. If you're not speaking, please mute your mic. Yeah. So I hope I have answered your question, Adewumi, and if other people have similar question, I think we
Yes,
can
sir.
we can rest it there. And it is good that you have asked the question of the Thursday project, because that is what we want to demonstrate. In that project, the aim is to understand, before you came to this course, how aware were you about reproducibility? What was your perception of that concept? Did you practice it? Well, no. So we want to make a survey to see where we were, all of us, where we were before this course. So the result will be, okay, we did not have so much knowledge. How do we measure that so much knowledge? We did not have so much knowledge. We didn't know about that. We never practiced it. It depends on the question you will come up with when you do this. That is the really goal. For instance, we can say, well, amongst those who are attending this course, the men or the women were more aware of this concept. The men or women were practice this more. We can use different by age or whatever. But the goal is that before you come to that conclusion, how did you do it? Can you, after this course, take the note of this small research you have done, give it to a colleague of yours, and say, look at this. Can you do the same thing? And that note is so transparent that your colleague can do that, arrive at the same result without you being there. That is what we want to demonstrate, because that is what reproducibility is talking about. So, how you would do this normally research transparently is that you have to think about the steps you're going to take, not going forward and say, oh, well, I didn't think about this. What happened? And then you go backward again. So think about it futuristic. Okay, this research, this is the question. I have formulated it. Before I go to the field, I have to develop my questionnaire. And these are the questions I want to ask. And when I go to the field, this is what I will do. So you are making the plan of what you are going to do. And then what we no, don't plan any qualitative approach. I want a questionnaire. I want a questionnaire. Well, I don't want this to be complicated. Just very simple. In your group, think of questions you want to used to get this aspect. Think of those questions, bring up those questions, and we all, as the whole 8 groups, will all put this together and formalize the questions we are going to use to um, answer this question. So the protocol, the mini protocol I mean is, before you start the research, you have to brainstorm in your group. That brainstorming period constitutes some notes you take. Okay, let's see what we are going to do first, what we are going to do second, how we are going to go about this. What analysis types we are thinking of using in this project. So you need to think about those beforehand. And yesterday I mentioned that when you do this, usually it is not every nitty gritty you think about before you go to the field. And so you also give allowance that if something happens that you have not thought about, you can update the protocol. And then you have to make a note that actually we didn't think about this, but when we got to the field, we realized this and we did this. That transparency needs to be there. You don't do it, you go to the field, you observe new things, and then you go to the protocol, you write it as if you thought about it before. So a mini protocol describes what you want to do to achieve your objective of the study. This may not be more than one page. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Has any of you done study protocol before your study before?
Mm. Is it
Has
the same
anyone?
thing as research proposal?
Yeah, yeah, it's something. The same
Yes,
thing.
yes, it's been, yes, for sure.
Yeah. So it's just a matter of concept. It's the same thing. The same thing. So just work with that. Okay. Any other question? I hope I don't will be satisfied with this.
I am, sir.
Great. Any other question or comments? So please find your time. I know some groups have come to me to give emails of those that are in their group so that they can find a way to continue to work on this. I like that spirit that you all have working on this. I promise you, you're going to really find this course very useful once you have gone through this project. And once you're doing that, at the end of today, you should also start thinking about your project that you present on Friday. That will become clearer when we go through the um, the material of today's course. That will be clear. Okay, so let's go. As you can see, I promise you that this course will be full of interactions, interactions, interactions. The group have to work together. You have to know yourselves. At the end of this course, you can exchange your emails, increase collaboration. It is important. That is my goal that this will achieve. So what happens now is that I'm going to send you back to your group now. I'm going to send you back. And what we're going to do is, yesterday, we have described and defined reproducibility, and it's clear what it means: transparency in the research process, repeatability, and so on and so forth. And we also described the fraud cases in this, and we also highlighted the fact that irreproducibility results to different negative impact on the research we do. And so one of the things that naturally will come will be what could be the causes. Um, um, okay, what could be the causes of irreproducibility in scientific research? That needs to be thought through because something must be causing this. And so I will give you 30 minutes to go to your groups, and in your group, make a list of potential causes. And as it was yesterday when you defined reproducibility, don't use your phones, don't use your computer. Just in your first impression, what do you think will cause people to do things in the wrong way or to take the wrong steps and so on and so forth? Just think about, brainstorm about that. And then after that, we'll take 10 minutes break, 10 minutes break. So at 10 o'clock, you take a break and we'll come back here 10 minutes past 10, and then we'll all discuss your points. I hope this is clear.
Yes, it is, sir.
Okay, great. So I will now send you to your breakout rooms. And well, as we did yesterday, I will please just give me a minute. I will call your name and you let me know where you are. Adekunle Owoyomi.
Of data and
Uh-huh.
hello.
Hello?
Hello, you back?
Yeah.
Okay, great, great. Okay, everyone, welcome back to this session, and I hope you have had a good discussion. Um, yeah, if you are sending a personal message, always remember to take the person's information only, unless you want all of us to see that. That is the way Zoom is. Okay, let's start with group one. In 2 minutes, tell us what you have come about group one. Who is presenting group one? Just unmute yourself and.
So I'm presenting for group one, Amanda.
Okay.
So what we came up with is that we came up with about 8 courses, and first one was we think that the key thing is a misunderstanding of the concept of reproducibility itself, because then if we confuse, so from what we've come up from this lesson and what our experiences are also with the definition yesterday was that reproducibility was synonymous with replication. So if you have that idea, it makes it very difficult for you to come out with in-depth steps or guidelines that people can follow to reproduce their work, and that causes irreproducibility. Then the aim of the researcher. So most often we think that the research is for just contributing to knowledge that people will pick from the findings, and then also for our promotion as researchers. And that makes it very difficult for us to focus exactly on the things that people can look out for in our work and reproduce. Also, the fast or first to finish ideology that I have to come out with a work first, a novel finding first, so that everybody will know that I am the person that came out with it, restricts people from following the best protocols that is required for others to be able to look at and reproduce the work. They're not following standard procedures for science that, okay, this is the expectations, come out with a guideline so clear that other people can reproduce, causes irreproducibility. Then altering of results, that even if somebody comes out with the clear steps and then at the end alters the findings for so fraudulent practices, it will make it difficult for other people to reproduce their work that they have done. Then funding and expectation, screwing people to a certain sort of finding makes it very difficult for them to come out with appropriate approaches that people can follow and reproduce. The lack of
is it a network or the class?
Amanda, we can't hear you anymore.
our personal experiences where this is the first time we are hearing about the concept of reproducibility. So, which meant that all the papers we had worked on prior to this may not have followed the appropriate steps for other people to be able to reproduce what we have done. The non-inclusion of protocols in paper. So if we include protocols, then others can look at it. The lack of mentorship. So if somebody's in a lab, for instance, and is going to work, senior researchers do not give them the prior information about they need to follow this and then they also lack the understanding from where they are from. They are more likely to come up with works that are not what they have. Thank you.
Okay. So thanks very much. Your 2 minutes is over. I think we can continue the discussion. So you can chip in if there are still remaining points you have to share later on as we go on. The line was so bad that we didn't get some of the things you said, but I think the key things we pick from that. Okay, thanks very much. Let's go to group 2. Who is representing group 2?
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon.
Good morning.
Oh, good morning. It's morning your time. Yes,
Yeah.
I'm John. I'll be respecting group 2.
Go ahead.
Sorry. Yeah, there was a mail that came that I had to respond. We try to look at a few points why people do what they do that leads to reproducibility. I don't know, we had a slide that I was thinking of sharing. Let me see.
Yeah,
So we
you want
thought
to
that
share your slide? Then go ahead.
Yes, I wanted to share your slide.
Yeah,
Okay.
go ahead.
Do you have it now?
No, we're not seeing it.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, you can talk us through it for the sake of time if it's not coming up.
Okay. So that we thought of a lack of, in addition to what Group 1 said, we thought of lack of control mechanisms. We know about the deontology of research, and there are laid down procedures, standard operating procedures. People may know them, and they may ignore them. So that too may contribute to malpractices or irreproducibility in research. And then there's the issue of culture. There's the issue of culture. When values are lost in a society, it creates space for dishonesty. And when people start doing certain things at a certain level, they tend to grow up with them. That may be one of the factors, but we also thought of the issue, like the renowned professor we had yesterday, Bahad Agawal. He was very renowned. He worked with a renowned institution in the US. He had everything. And then we begin to ask ourselves, what must have prompted him to engage into such publication malpractices? And then there's also the issue of competition. Everyone just wants to be a winner, no matter the odds. We can see the issue of the new corona vaccine, how people, there's a mad race for everyone to be the first to have their vaccines in the market. And then this brought us to the economy of scale. Now, people want to publish. The rush for publication may be as a result of promotion into higher ranks. Or we look at promotion now from the individual to the institutional level. There may be a reason why people want to publish, because they'll be promoted in their academic career. Universities still wants to grow into the higher academic ranking, so they tend to lose focus, and then we find ourselves in a situation where there are many articles or publications which do not respect the standard operating procedures. Then there was the issue of self-ego. People want to be known. People want to be heard. People want to be seen as those who have published more, even if it means breaking the odds. Then this brought us to prestige. And then we thought of another issue of intolerance. For instance, I may know members of my group now in group 2, and then I see their paper tomorrow. I say, okay, it's from my member, so I don't pay particular attention to it. And I let many barriers or aspects that were supposed to be respected, and I'll allow the paper to be published like that. So we also have to look at the part of the reviewers, the editors, and then the supervisors if it comes to we come to think about academic institutions where supervisors are to look after students from the maybe doctorate to master's level and below.
Okay.
So those
Thanks
are the
very
few
much.
points we
Thank
gathered.
you very much. Thank you very much. I think it's well noted. If you have more points, you come up as we discuss, but your points are very clear. One particular point you mentioned, I think is important for us as African scholars. You mentioned culture. If things start going wrongly in the society, people tend to also behave in that trajectory. I think that is very key points for us to be critical. And if you watch the nuggets, why, that is when Simon Sinek was trying to explain this, he said in the society, just very, very few people ask the question, why? Why am I doing? Please just mute your mic. If you're not speaking, just mute your mic. Can see some background, hear some background noise. So it is very important for us to be self-critical and also critical of the environment where we find ourselves. Okay, let's go to group 3.
Okay, Ngozi will be present for group 3. We looked at several factors that can cause reproducibility. One, we talked about faulty research designs. Most times the researcher might really want to do a good research, but the research design itself is faulty. We also looked at insufficient resources. Most of these researches are actually privately funded, and especially in the social science fields, they don't have enough resources to carry out a good research. Then we also looked at fraud, like what we saw in the Rajit Chandra guide. Just basically, some scientists are just out to defraud the system. Then we looked at insufficient mentoring from senior colleagues. Most researchers don't know about reproducibility. I didn't know about this till now. So they don't know how to, design their research for it to be reproducible. So there's no mentoring from senior colleagues. We also looked at desperation, amongst researchers, especially in the academia, to publish or perish, syndrome. You're desperate to publish so you can get promoted, as the previous speaker said. And we also looked at conflict of interest. If a protocol is sent to a board and that board, some of the board members have interest in that protocol, or they have maybe this coming from their institution or from someone they know, they might not, look at it rigorously to make sure it's in line with what needs to be done. So such protocols and such researches will go ahead without, taking care of that aspect. Then we also looked at predatory journals. Most of these predatory journals are not rigorous in the kind of research they publish. They don't go through, they don't look at the research design, they don't look at the methodology, and you just pay money and you publish it. It encourages, faulty, improducible research to be published all the time. Then the last one we looked at is the human factor. Especially in the social sciences, you look at behavioral changes and changes in beliefs. When you are doing a research on people's beliefs or people's behaviors, behaviors and beliefs changes over time. So even if that design is good and you follow the same methodology, by the time you come back, they are not, the people there don't have the same belief system. They might tell you, oh, we used to, but now we no longer. So all those things, also affect the research, the reproducibility of a research. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ngozi, for this point you have highlighted. I think they are in the same direction of the things we look at, and it's really fantastic for all the groups that have presented now, that without looking at the internet, you were able to come up with these points, because there are similar points that we research has confirmed. All right, so thank you very much. Let's go to group 4. Group 4.
Okay,
Who is
sir.
representing group 4?
Sir, is it possible to share our screen?
Yeah,
Yes,
go
group 4. Adewumi is presenting on behalf of group 4. And we
go
have
ahead.
Adewumi.
Yeah, go ahead and share your screen, please.
Can you hear me, sir?
I can hear you. Do you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay.
Please project.
Yeah, just
Okay,
share
sir.
your screen, Adewumi.
Yes, I can hear you.
You're sharing your computer screen. Can you perhaps
Okay,
you
I'm
just
seeing,
share?
I can't, okay. I'm trying to share my screen.
Okay.
You are sharing your screen already, but okay, you are
I'll
now okay.
remove it. Okay.
Okay, you are okay now. Slideshow, please. Okay.
So is it good now? Okay.
You have dropped, so you are no longer sharing it. I think you have to do it again.
So can I go ahead now? Can you hear me?
We can hear you, but you are not sharing your
Can you
screen
see my
anymore.
screen, or you
No.
can't see my screen?
Yeah, you have dropped. Just do the same process
Just
again.
go ahead and,
Okay, so
say
maybe
what you need.
if that is delayed.
Yeah, just go ahead. Just go ahead
Oh.
and tell us what you have. Are you there with me?
Okay, so what I have is that, okay, this is sir, can I continue? I don't know, it's breaking somehow. I don't know,
Continue.
maybe
Is your
it's my
network? Continue. Your network is delaying. Continue. You are on
Hello?
already.
Hello?
We can hear
You
you,
are
Ademi.
on. You are on. Go ahead.
Hello?
Does anyone else have
Can you
maybe
hear me?
somebody else from the group too? You can send her a
Yes.
message.
Can you hear me, doctor? Can
Okay,
you hear
so
me?
causes of most of the points we have had been by the group one.
Okay, I think it's a problem there.
Hello? Network.
We can hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. You have been heard. Yes.
Hello, sir.
Can
Dr.
somebody
Bright, can you hear
can
me,
somebody
sir?
takes care of group 2?
Okay,
Group
so
4?
causes of the points we put down include the desperation of researchers. Yes, I've shared the.
Maybe you take over from here.
Yeah, I think
Am
you
I
can do
still
that.
on?
You can do that.
You are on, but you are not
Olayinka.
speaking. You are on.
Olayinka, go ahead. I've muted her, so
Okay.
that you can send her a private message
So,
that we are not getting through to her.
okay, no problem. So, talk about the aspiration of researchers to be globally recognized for novel research, and some of this also could relate to career advancement, promotion, the pressure. Nobody wants to be left behind, and peradventure, the way the university or the institute make it, it's you just have to publish to be promoted, and you have to use your fund to do all these things. So you want to do the best in quotes that you can do. And that will lead to cutting of corners, some things that you ought to do right, because you know that you just have to do some things. You have to cut corners. Then rushing to publish without peer review, or even with peer review, the person will just want to rush rather than taking his time to do, putting finishing touches, dotting the I's and crossing the T's, is rushing to publish. We'll talk about poor funding. Now, like somebody mentioned, using personal finance to finance projects. You wouldn't want to use your hard-earned money salary to finance a project and the project will not be publishable or will not, make impact in your career. So all those things comes in. Talk about poor equipment. Yes, the person could have done the experiment, the research very well, but poor equipment and faulty equipment, which he has no power over. Let's say, for example, he wants to use the nano drop spectrophotometer and thing is 40. If this is not the result I'm supposed to get for this, this thing is 40. It's long they service it, but it will still just manipulate it the way it thinks it should. We'll talk about reagents. Some reagents could have stayed long, and the potency of such reagents are no longer there. But the person would, rather than throwing away the reagents, you still want to use it, and they may not get the expected results as would have expected. I know the longer the reagent stayed, the lower the potency. They'll talk about doctoring of results to get an expected result. Somebody is doing a research, even before starting the research, you already know where he's heading to. He knows what kind of result he wants to get. So if he's not getting that result, you want to doctor the result. Talk about incompetence of researcher.
Sorry, Olayinka. I think we can stop here. You can bring, for the sake of time, you can bring those points as we go on. I think you have more to discuss, but as we go on, you bring those points into the discussion.
No
Let's
problem.
give group 5 time to present. Thank you very much. This is really nice.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you. Group 5.
Yeah. Causes of eligibility, some causes are related to researchers, like lack of knowledge and training and mentoring, publish and perish pressure. Some researchers want to be famous and productive in research field regardless of quality, and also may want to get funds. Negative attitude of researchers towards publishing data and the detailed methodologies, and some factors related to institutions like poor training and poor environment availabilities like resources. Also, there is no auditing for research practices in institutions, and the policies, laws, and actions towards bad science behaviors may be not implemented well, and this leads to many of bad researchers may make bad behavior in science and not get even punished or action taken towards this. There is other factors related to publishers like editorials and reviewing policies and practices, included transparency regarding data publishing and transparency of editorial and reviewing process. Also, there is some responsibility of the community. I think with the cases crisis in reducibility we discussed yesterday, if the students or those who discovered these factors didn't disclose this to the community, those with bad behavior couldn't be discovered. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Eman. Thank you for this point. And this point you have highlighted also in line with what the other groups have presented, and it is good to see that without any access to the internet to look at this, you are able to come up. And I think the point you're making are the things happening around the environment you are, what is happening there, which is also very concerning with regards to our research, the goal of our research, the ultimate goal of doing science in the first place, and what is the hope in going forward? What is the hope? And that becomes the issue here now, to see that for us as African scientists who have come to this course, it becomes important for us at the end of this course to go back and have self-examination. And I think we can have a new or declare a new pathway we are going to work with our research in going forward. What is the driving force for you? Is it all you have provided now at the point you have provided, or are you motivated by the ultimate goal of science itself to make our society better? So it's something that we all need to reflect. So let's go to group. Yeah, group 6 doesn't have anyone there, unfortunately, but we'll go to group 7.
Group 7, I am presenting. May
Great.
you allow me to share my screen?
Yeah, go ahead.
Please allow me to share my screen.
Yeah, you're allowed. You're allowed. You can share your screen. You can share your screen, Zelalem.
Okay. Now I start my presentation representing Group 7. The members are Marion, Ruby, and me. And we try to list possible causes and factors of reproducibility. One major factor that we have listed is that the researchers are unaware of that is reproducibility when they are doing their research. That is a common practice that we, even in myself, that is this is my first experience regarding this reproducibility. The second one is that is in some cases that is the students have time limit to finish their study. Because of this, they have shortage of time. They are unable to check whether their research or experiment is reproducible or not. The third one that we have listed was that is shortage of resources. As usual, that is when you do your research, money is one shortage, even time is also another shortage. So because of this, they are unable to reproduce the experiment again and again, so that they have to check whether it is reproducible or not. The fourth one that we have indicated is that is the motive behind our selfish, that is the selfish motives. We want to have produced so many articles and so on and so on. Because of this, that is we only focus our personal motive instead of that is the science behind that. The other one that we have indicated is that is in the case of supervisors, we have read so many articles that indicate that being supervisor lazy fairness, the student or that is the scholar even produces or fabricates their own data. So because of this, that is it may be considered as one possible factors. The last one that we have indicated is that is in some cases the methodology may not be clear, or that is the steps used in the experiment or in the research, since they are vague. So that is it is possible that is we are not able to reproduce that is the methodology. So this is, as a group, we have indicated this within this period of time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's important, the point you have made, and they all agree with what the previous groups have presented. And you can see it clearly, what the problem is. Some of you may be playing important roles in your institutions, departmental health. You may be in charge of a research unit and so on and so forth. One of the things you take away from this course is whether what happens once you finish this course. How will you be able to influence your environment? You can start a movement. This could be gradually. You may be a supervisor, and you can begin to implement your students through these skills you learn from here, how to make their research. you can begin to have some seminars about discussing these issues in your environment. Like I said, one of the groups that participated in the course, this course 2 years ago, they had a campaign they wanted to start to begin to create awareness of what they can do to let people know that this is an important consideration. So thanks very much for this. Let's see what group 8 has.
All right. Yeah. Good morning.
Good morning.
This is
Good morning.
Dr.
Good morning. Good morning.
Sorry, Zelalem, can you stop sharing just in case others want to?
Good morning.
Thanks.
Good morning. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, this is Ako Iman Financial from Group 8. Hello, good morning. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Go ahead.
We've been having some hitches. However, this morning we've been asked to talk about first impression of causes of irreproducibility. For us as a group, for me as an individual as a part of that group, it's the first time I'm hearing that you can actually reproduce a research. Because here in Africa, the first questions you're asked in the presentation when it comes to research is, what are you adding to knowledge? And what is the gap that you are trying to fill? That's the first two things. So in other words, every time there's a research, there must be a novel idea, something new that you're adding to what has already been on ground. Not necessarily trying to repeat to see whether you come up with the same result that some other persons had come up with in some part of the world. So having to have something new, having to meet or add something to knowledge is always key. The other one is this tag, academic voice. You have to have a certain voice so that when people read your work, they know that it is you writing, academic voice, and that is huge. And so for you to have an academic voice, it means that you have to keep on churning things. So the room to have to reproduce what somebody had already done will be somehow nullified. Then, of course, again, when a research topic comes up or a paper comes up, the first thing you want to do is to check, put it in, turn it in, they call it, to find out how much percentage of that work is regional. So if we keep going by way of being turn it in, by way of checking how much plagiarism has been involved, then what if that means is that the chances of trying to reproduce an experiment or a work that's been done in some part of the world to see if that same condition can obtain and if the same result can be gotten will negate the issues of irreproducibility. So as a group, we found out that irreproducibility in this part of the world, I don't know about every other part of the world, is pretty low. It's a new idea, and that having to want to be heard, having to want to speak so that you can be known or recognized as is a bane for issues that has to do with reproducibility as far as research is concerned. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, everyone. And group 8, now you have tried to contextualize it, what is happening around your environment, which is good. And I hope we can begin such self-criticism of ourselves. It is good to hear several of you saying this is the first time you're hearing this concept. Yeah, it's good. New things are not always easy to take in, but yeah, you will see what happens, how people are doing it. And I don't want you to lose focus of the overall picture I have emphasized since yesterday, why we are scientists, researchers in the first place. If we get that, in our mind, which coincides so much with the nuggets for the last week I presented. Why you're a researcher? If we continue to ask ourselves that question, it is really an inspiring question. It brings aspect of purpose into what we do and helps us to critique it. And then we then get ourselves in the pathway of doing things well. So let's really continue this discussion as a group, and it is good. It is good today for me that African colleagues, you can come this umbrella to meet each other, to learn something new, and then it will be good to get it done. There was something I was actually thinking that we could do from this course. Perhaps you can think about it in your group when you prepare for the project for Friday. That was one of the things I thought we could do, but I didn't know how to get it to work. But with the things you're saying in your presentation, it's occurring to me that we can think about it. What I was thinking is this: for your project on Friday, you take an initiative that has been proposed, or an initiative that you are developing yourself. After your presentation on Friday, is it possible that you can write this as, for instance, a letter to the editor as a short article? Each group does that, and then we can send it to some African journals. We can describe what has led to this. We can give a background. This is a concept we have not known before. I can, if you think it's something you can do, some people have done it before, to take up issues they bring in their groups and put it up into a paper and publish it. But it will go in this direction that for us as African scholars, this is something new we are learning. We have not known before. And we think this is the direction we want to go. So if you take an initiative, you can emphasize that initiative, that many research, for instance, coming from our continent, have not carefully looked at this. Perhaps the journals have not also taken consideration of this. But having gained this knowledge, in going forward, we think that this journal, subsequent papers, you could ask researchers to provide a description of what they have done with regards to this globally accepted practice that enhances reproducibility. So that's what I'm thinking. You don't need to do that, but if you think you're motivated enough to collaborate across board within your group, just let me know. At the end of the presentation on Friday, we can fix time. Sorry, like I did with the group I had last July. We have mentoring group meetings, about 10 of them, and we already submitted 2 papers, and we have 2 more in the process we are working with for this year. So if you think that is what you want to do, we can form also a group from this course that can begin to think of making these little changes that are important, and we can start with formulating this paper and send it to a journal in Africa. And if there are other groups, we can send it to another journal as well, send it to another journal. And the concept, that is how change can start. So think about this. I don't know if anybody, with the point you have discussed, if somebody has something to say or in reaction to what I've just said now before we move on.
Yes, no, Professor.
Yes.
Hello. Yeah. My own concern, this is Dr. Josiah. Hello?
Go ahead, please.
All right. My concern is the humanities. In the humanities, we seem to have a kind of challenge on recent methodologies in the humanities. And I think that also had hindered what we are discussing greatly. Although this idea is also new to me, I'm hearing it too for the first time. We were thinking when you do that, it could be tantamount to plagiarism, or taking someone's work and replicating. It is not ethically right. But this seminar or workshop is really helping. So how do we, with the limitation of access to resources like material resources, how can we in Africa, in Nigeria, get access and get acquainted with current methodologies in the humanities? There are times you send papers on humanities, they throw it back because they are not really capturing, taking those into consideration, those methodologies. So it's a challenge for us here. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Josiah. Thanks very much. One thing is that I will forgive you because you were not here yesterday and you were not here this morning. I will forgive you that because you have used a terminology we have defined, replication. You have used it, and I think everybody was able to get that when you mentioned that. It's funny anyway, but what I will say is go and watch the video for yesterday. I think that will clarify a lot of things. Yeah, but the point you have made is taken, and this morning when I started, I took time to try to explain because some of the professions represented here were somewhat worried whether the concept or this method of reproducibility is relevant in their field. And I try to explain it, and I use the analogy of a mother who is cooking in the kitchen and what happens if she's not there. I think that gave a clear picture of what we are trying to do. But the main thing here, Josiah, is even in humanities, I think when you do your research, one of the key things you want as a supervisor or as a colleague, as a collaborator, one of the things you want to happen is to achieve transparency, so that you can explain to somebody, this is the way I did it. And somebody can take your methods to try to see if they will get the same answer with what you have done. So that aspect of transparency is very important. And it's not a matter of which field you are. It should be something that cuts across field. And I think when you say humanities, actually, that's really, that terminology is something that sometimes we don't think about. We just call it. When you say humanities or you say science, when you say humanity connotes an aspect of being closer to people, being closer to human beings, you understand? And so it's, in my mind, it indicates that what you do in your research, what you do in your field is something that affects every human being every day. And so if you're doing it and it affects every human being, then you need to do it in a way that it is transparent, because you want your results to affect people in a positive way. So it is very important that when you do your research in the humanities or whatever field you do it, to be transparent enough so that people can repeat what you have done and get the same answer. So, but I will encourage you, please take your time. If the videos for yesterday session are already in the YouTube channel, so please find it and get access to that. That will help a lot. And then the slides for yesterday lecture are in the Dropbox folder. You can also find it there so that you can go through some of the things we have, because there were some terminologies we first defined to say that replication is not the same thing as reproducibility.
Okay.
Yeah, so once you get those ideas clear, I think tomorrow you will come with some confidence, and then you now defend this concept that it is very important even for the field of humanities.
It's all right. Thank
Thank
you
you very
so
much. Yeah. Okay. Any issue yet somebody wants to bring up? Okay. If not, what I will do is let me mute.
Sorry, Bright, I can't hear you.
Yeah. Sorry, I muted myself and I was speaking.
Okay.
Sorry about that. So what I was saying is that I will mute myself. Everybody mute yourself and just take 2 minutes to look at this. Look at this. Because you have given me your list. Look at this, look at this. But just these are some questions people answered when they asked them. Look at this, and then I will come back to you.
Okay.
Okay, now you have looked at it. I guess this is in line with the things you have described. If anyone wants to make comment, I can take 2 comments with regards to this. Have you experienced this? Is this something you're familiar with? And some of these points are coming up, and that is why yesterday I said Adewumi and Valerie. Valerie's I've not heard about him here today. That on Friday we see whether there is a change in your statement yesterday you made. Okay, so you can see the issues. that may really cause this, influence people to do what they do. This is not just theoretical. This is something that happens. And the point, and that is why I started with you. What is your first impression? And what you came up with is just in line with what is here, which means it's something that you are aware about. It's not something that happens. This survey is not something done in Africa. But you being in Africa there, you're able to see that similar things happen. This is quite important, especially those in their early stage of their career. Pressure to publish, pressure to publish, pressure to publish. Yeah. But what does this do to the ultimate goal of science? What does it do? When people do this, or when people do all this they do, they don't think so much about what impact what I'm doing will have on the society, on the population, or whoever my results apply to. They don't think about that. There are other things that really influence. That is not the way we should do it. Okay. A manifesto for reproducible science. This is a paper you need to read. Take it. It was published 4 years ago. And those yesterday, when I started, I showed you the paper in 2005. John Ioannidis published. He said why most research are false. He said, and he has been one of the leaders of this movement. And here they put a manifesto for reproducible research. These are the threats to reproducible science, which they call one of them hacking. Hypothesizing after the results are known. You see? I think it was group 4, if I'm right, Olayinka's group, when he was presenting, he said knowing the result or having the answers already in the mind. You already know it, and then you are working from the answer. That is not the way science works. It works from what? Generating the hypothesis, designing the study, and in this, you work on the protocol. What Adewumi was asking this morning. Develop the protocol of what you want to do. Have a guide. The protocol is a guide that tells you what you want to do. There is an African adage. There's an African adage. I don't know, but maybe where I come from. It said that the one who plans to go to the farm in the morning starts from the night to put his basket in order. You start in the night to put your hoe, your knife, to put your things you will use. Maybe in the morning, then you add your food, you eat for your lunch there. But you need to go prospectively, not this way. It needs to be this way. You design the study, then you conduct the study and collect your data, and that is what you should be doing in the project you present on Thursday. Sorry about that. Analyze the data you have collected, interpret your results, and then publish. If you don't generate a hypothesis before, there will be some bias. You have to design the study and think of how much, for instance, if you are working with people, how many people you need to really answer that question. Issue of low statistical power can come in here if you don't think about this carefully. Collect the data. If you don't do this very well, poor quality control, and so on and so forth. But what they're saying here is that people jump from here to here, jump from here. They get the results. They don't develop the hypothesis. They get the results. and then they go back to general hypothesis and fix this here as if they already did before. That's not the way it should work. That's not the way science should work. But that is what is common. Okay, let me leave this for you to look at. This is a nugget. I think one of or two of the groups will have this, but they will need to explain to us. Yeah, and I forgot to actually ask group one to tell us their nugget, but I will come back to that. So group one, get ready for your 2 minutes nugget. Not every paper needs to be medically relevant, but they should all be reproducible. Reproducibility is like brushing your teeth. Once you learn it, it becomes a habit. It's like a magnet. You get it. You get it. You will read a paper, any paper you read, you always look for, how did they deal with reproducibility? How did they deal with this? It's like brushing your teeth. You can see the baby, you teach the baby how to brush, and the baby starts with looking at the mirror to see whether she's doing it well. And after some time, what happens? The baby doesn't look at the mirror. The baby already knows where it is. And of course, if something is on your teeth, you feel it with your tongue. And the baby is doing it. It becomes a habit. A habit, you do it. And so you begin to evaluate every paper for this. It becomes natural, magnetic. Yeah, how to make more published research true. John listed all this here. Collaboration is important. Adoption of replication culture. Yeah, for those fields that you need to replicate. And I mentioned yesterday, it is not easy for many fields to replicate. Registration of study protocols, analysis codes, data set, raw data. Olayinka mentioned something yesterday, which we'll come back to. GitHub and other avenues people use to share their data. Sharing of data, implementing reproducibility practices, and so on. Yeah, somebody wants to speak? Okay. So more things coming up. Symposium was held in 2015 and they listed aspect that will increase reproducibility, open data sharing. And you have to think about it because it's not every data that you have the right to share. So they also recognize that where it is possible, you do this. Registration of your protocol, the study you want to do, and there are many platforms. We'll come back to that. You do that. Collaboration, and that is one thing I have emphasized that can result from this course. Interact with each other. It is very important. There is no downside to it. There's no downside to this. There's no downside discussing your ideas together. There's no downside. It promotes science. It helps us to grow. Automation. Yeah, human hands always has mistakes that can be. So we have opportunity these days with the computer to do things and automate them. Otherwise, human error is always common. Open methods, publicly publishing the detail of a study protocol. Post-publication review, you can see that many of the papers we reviewed the cases yesterday ended up passing through the review process. And if we think that once a paper is published, it is settled, then we wouldn't have caught those as fraud. So post-publication review is important to continue to discuss a study, and from there we may see what has happened. Reporting guidelines, yeah, those ones are there, and we will see some of them today. More things. Lancet had in 2014 series of papers in which they have indicated how to increase value in scientific research. So if you have time, you can look at this, but this is one of those. There are several of them they published that year. Okay, let me give you 10 minutes to at least reflect more on what we have discussed this far, and I will come back and we'll present the last session for this morning. So once the break comes, group one will give us their nugget for today. Okay, see you in 10 minutes. 21 past my time, 11. Okay. All right, so welcome back. Welcome back. Group one, are you ready for your nuggets? Group one, ready? Group one, 2 minutes.
Okay, yeah, 2 minutes. And then, so you just put a lot there, and then if after 2 minutes and he says we should stop, at least he knows we picked up a lot.
Yeah, okay. Group one, you're here. Just go ahead.
Okay. Can I share the screen?
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you. It says not. It's not allowing me to do so. But we chose 5 of them. One of them is, well, even the title, maybe we can say 6 with the title. The first one would be the title, which is if a job is worth doing, it is worth doing twice.
Yeah. Are you sharing your screen still?
No, I'm not able to do that. I was trying, but
okay,
it's not
so just go ahead.
me. Yes. So then we have this one. Not every paper needs to be medically relevant, but they should all be reproducible. Science already self-corrects. The other one, researchers and funding agencies need to put a premium on ensuring that results are reproducible. The other one, science should work through open dialogue accessible to everyone. The other one, in recent years, it has become clear that biomedical science is plagued by findings that cannot be reproduced, waste grant money. But the one that we would like to maybe discuss more is this one. Not every paper needs to be medical relevant, but they should should all be reproducible. We think that's important. The most important, what we got from the paper and what is our perception is that the most important thing is to do science, good science, avoiding all the errors that we highlighted even when we were discussing cause of reproducibility, for example. If we talk about fraud, which is maybe probably the most cause or the most problem that we have nowadays, because of all this pressure to publish, people will just fabricate data or not paying much attention on research design and on how it's conducted, on analysis, on every steps of yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Claude. Do you call it Clotilde or how do you call your name?
Clotilde.
Clotilde. Okay, thanks very much. I appreciate that. For group 2, I said you just will come immediately after the lunch break, so get ready for that. And it's important what group one has highlighted that not every paper needs to be medically relevant. You can see that, but they must be reproducible. And she emphasized that we need to do good science. That is very important. We need to do good science. Okay, I will continue so that we can finish this session. So what are we talking about here? That is one of the questions. How do I ensure reproducibility in my own research? And so reproducibility is something that affects all research stages, as you can see. So the expectation is that when you're doing your study design, when you're executing your design, you need to integrate reproducibility, transparency, collaboration, data analysis. The same thing needs to happen. Dissemination, that is during the publishing stage, the same thing needs to happen. Many times we think this is where the problem is. No. If there is a problem, many times it's already started from here. So we need to think reproducibility in every aspect of our study. It's very important. My fellow African scholars, this is very important. For us to lift our continent as an example, we need to do the minimum in our area of expertise, our areas of interest as scientists. We need to do the minimum to ensure that we are doing the right thing. We are doing good science. Okay. Yeah, sorry, forget about that. So important. So there are several initiatives that have been provided. You have the open science initiatives. Check here when you have this slide. Check here. You can see what they have indicated to ensure that reproducibility needs to be integrated in all aspects of the research process. Reproducibility needs to, and you have the notes of what they have suggested. So please take your time. Reproducibility, data collection, processing of the data, the storing of the data, preservation of the data, publication, reuse of the data. Think reproducibility. Think reproducibility. It is very important. That is the way it should be. Okay, at the study design, what do you do? Register your protocol. Are there with me? I emphasized that this morning. It was clear to you. Develop, register, publish protocol. And because of how important this is, several databases or several platforms are there that you can register your protocol. Many journals accept publication of the protocol as well. In fact, clinical trials, it's hardly will you nowadays and for several years now publish a clinical trial without showing evidence that you have a protocol that was registered at least and they're all published. So this is very critical. And this protocol can be done for any research. Like the small thing you're doing for Thursday, I've asked you to develop a protocol. That is simple. You should produce a protocol for that. You can do it for anything. And if you, for instance, you are doing cross-sectional study or you're collecting information from people, you have a cohort of people you follow, a protocol needs to be done. A study plan. Pre-registration makes your science better by increasing the credibility of your results. So what happens is that once you have registered your protocol, you publish your protocol, and once you have done the research, you submit it to a journal, the reviewers will usually, or even the editor sometimes may take your protocol to compare what you have said you would do, your protocol, to compare to what you have done. And once they see that you have been faithful to what you have said you would do, then actually, it makes your science better. Trust me, it does. It helps to prevent publication bias. It helps to prevent what we have described before, hacking, hypothesizing after the result is known. So you ask, where do I register my protocol? Clinicaltrials.gov. Sometimes people think that it's only for clinical trials. No, I have registered normal database analysis protocol there. You can register different study types there. It started with clinical trials, but it's accepting registration of protocol from different study designs. You have EU clinical trials register as well. You can register your protocol, and you have several of them. Systematic review, you have the Prospero. For those who have been working with since July, you are now aware of this because you did this, and so on and so forth. There are several others that you can register your protocol. So there's no excuse at all. Why do you register study protocol? It enhances open science practice. Transparency is increased, and then eventually the reliability of our results. It helps to prevent trying to manipulate the data to make it. Yesterday, one of the groups talked about Diederik Stapel, the professor from the Netherlands, who used his skills to manipulate. And the presentation yesterday, I heard somebody mention that in one of the conferences, somebody said whether he has fabricated the data because of how nice it looks. Yeah, it helps to prevent post hoc analysis, trying to manipulate the data, want data, trying to test different things. It also helps to prevent selective outcome because sometimes people do their study and once the results are out, they find out that maybe their main hypothesis was not fulfilled, and then they saw that there is evidence with regards to other aspects, and then they choose to hide the main hypothesis they had said before. But once you have a protocol, it helps to reduce that risk of doing this. And then hacking, as we have discussed. And when you register, those who are working in your area will know that somebody is doing something, really. And I've experienced this in systematic review setting. Several years back, and I think that is 10 years ago, exactly 10 years ago, we have the European Association of Allergy and Clinical Immunology. They were planning to develop guidelines. They were trying to develop guidelines for food allergy in Europe. And then they established an expert group and the methodology group. I was part of the methodology group, and they were tasked to survey the field to understand, and those who are familiar with how guidelines are developed, you know that they have to synthesize the evidence to understand what is happening in the field, and then they will use that to feed into developing the guideline. And so we were working on this, and then we developed several protocols because there were several topics that were to be covered in the guideline. And then we sent the protocols and registered in Prospero, and then published the protocol in a journal. And so the European Association of Allergy and Clinical Immunology owns the journal called Allergy. That is journal that association owns. And the plan was that all the papers that will be published from the systematic reviews will be published in that journal. And so at the time we were actually performing the systematic review, the protocol has been published, registered, and then the editor of that journal sent me a paper to review. I accepted and then started reviewing that paper. And I saw that that paper actually did the same thing as we are doing in our own semantic review. And so what I did was to reject that paper. It was a systematic review. And I informed the editor of my decision. And the decision was that this is what we are working on with regards to this, the guideline. We're working on a paper on this. And what happened was that according to the rules of publishing the systematic review, you need to develop a protocol. I did not see evidence that these authors developed a protocol. You need to register the protocol. I didn't find a protocol registered anywhere. And then you need to publish the protocol. They didn't fulfill this. If they had done, and then we would have known already that somebody is working on this, and perhaps we would have looked for a way to collaborate with them. But they didn't do this, and we are doing it. We have already set up protocol and published. So I think they have missed a stage that is very necessary. And so that paper was rejected, and of course it was published elsewhere. But what happens, I'm trying to highlight here, is that when you register your protocol, other people will know what is happening. Of course, it doesn't prevent them from not doing the same thing you're doing. People do that, but at least it gives an indication that something is happening. A few years back, I think this 5 years ago, a master's student I supervised, after supervision, we agreed that she will prepare the paper and submit it for publication. And she started doing that. She registered her protocol and published. By the time she finished her master's thesis and was trying to write up this paper, a paper on the same topic was just published few weeks before she sent it to the journal, the protocol to the journal. And so the reviewers highlighted that a paper had just been published. Why are you doing a new one? And so we had to defend that. And how do we defend it? Yeah, this paper was published. By the time we conceived this study and by the time we reached our protocol, we did not find evidence somebody was doing something like this. And so we think that those authors have missed that stage that is important. And of course, that is published doesn't mean that the editors agree with everything, they violating this. No, many editors don't know. Many editors don't adhere to this. Many editors don't take recognition of this. So it's very important that publishing your protocol, registering it will help to increase the awareness that something is happening. And yes, it can increase the likelihood of publication as well. This happens quite often in some journals who will say, if you submit your protocol, we're not going to publish the protocol, but we can read it. And if we like it, we'll keep the protocol. And we will want you to submit your paper to us when it's finished because we like the topic. And once we go through, in fact, that when the paper is submitted, it will give you rapid review. And then we'll publish your protocol, your paper alongside each other when it's published. So it's very important to register reproducibility in data analysis. Yeah, a study is reproducible if all of the codes and data used to generate the numbers and figures in the paper are available and exactly produce the published results. You see that? Yeah, you need to make your code available. Olayinka mentioned this, I've been sharing his codes. And where it's possible, you should share your data. If it's not possible, at least the code. Share with a relevant platform. Tomorrow, two of my colleagues I mentioned will come. One of them is a PhD student I'm supervising who just did a study recently, and I asked him to come and at least show you what he has done with regards of to thinking about this aspect of reproducibility. So reproducibility in data analysis, scientists should communicate the data they collect and the models they create to allow free and open access and in ways that are intelligible. This is very important, intelligible, because you may share your codes, but it makes no sense. And what this means is that you should design your coding system, your analysis procedures with comments that people can read. Okay, stage one, I collected the data, I cleaned it, I transformed the variables. Variable gender was gender 5, and I transfer that to have a new variable called gender 6. Age was called age num, and I transfer that to become age cat. Age num is numerical, meaning that everybody's age is there, but when I made it age cat, it becomes categorical, and I transfer it into 10-year age categories. So it should be intelligible. People should, and I mentioned in the morning when I did with me, brought that issue up. I tried to use a kitchen. If the mother puts the recipe down and say you cook rice with tomatoes, onion, and a pot, and you have to have a spoon by your side, it makes no sense to the child. But if you put it there and you say, you get the rice, you wash it, you put this first, after that, wait 5 minutes, 2 minutes before you put it, that makes more sense. It's more intelligible. So when you're doing your analysis and you're preparing your code, it should be intelligible. It's very important, accessible, usable for other specialists. Where data justify, a scientist should make them available in an appropriate data repository. Okay, so your data, make available if possible. Code used for results tables, figures, those code you use to provide this, and the software used should be made available. Documentation, document in details so that people can follow your procedure and produce the same results. Distribution, when you have made all this, look for a platform. Sometimes people include it in their paper as appendix or supplementary file and publish, but now they have different platforms you can share this with. People can even actually begin to comment and share experience with you. And across many statistical programs, the issue of reproducibility is now being integrated. And integrating in that helps you to automate the process and then reduce human errors. So if you're using different statistical packages, check whether they have this. At least in R, they have. I've seen in Stata being developed. You can check with SAT, SPSS, and also you can check across MATLAB and so on and so forth, what people are doing. And so you need as well, before you do the analysis, to develop an analysis plan. Develop analysis plan, step-by-step recipe of the decisions you make and how you analyze your data. If possible, publish the protocol of the analysis plan, not the protocol of the study only, but the analysis plan can also be published. You can register it as well. You can consult investigators from the same field to make clarification in what you're doing. This is one of the studies I did several years ago, and this was my analysis plan. You see, if I write this out, this would be maybe more than 5 pages of text. But like the old saying, a picture is worth more than 1,000 words. And so you can see all I have done here. It looks complicated, but I give here step one I took, what I did. I obtained all relevant data sets and prepare them for merging. So I prepare each of these data because they will all be merged. And here I merge the data sets together. I clean the data sets. Then I merge this data set with another data set. And then I checked it further. Then I perform exploratory analysis. And then I developed my models and so on and so forth. This already gives you a clear picture. And when you send this to a journal, you know how they feel. They feel that, yeah, you know what you're doing really well. I don't know if I knew all I was doing at the time, but this is what I did. of course, and you learn and you learn and you learn and you improve. Okay. Yeah, you edit the data, and that is one of the things you'll be doing in for your project on Thursday. Edit your data, code your variables sensibly, code variables in a reproducible way. I said it. Your data syntax, you need to use your data syntax. I know some of you have not been working with statistical programs in your groups. You may have people who have not been working, but please be patient with them. Don't say this is simple thing we have been. Yeah, you have been doing it, but you know, if you don't learn, you wouldn't know. So they will ask you lots of questions in your group. Please be patient and answer them and help them to get through with that. So this is what you do. Let everything be transparent, clear, intelligible, and other people can take your what you have done and reproduce the same thing you have done. To report the study at the reporting stage, the dissemination stage, now there are actually protocol, guidelines that are there. The Equator Network. Later you can check this website. I tell you, it is fantastic website that have been developed, and the goal of this Equator Network has been, how do we make sure that researchers are reporting things in a transparent way? And they have produced different guidelines for different study designs to enable them to report the things in the right manner. And so they have given you guidelines of what you should say, what you should report on this stage, your method, how you recruited people, how you did the analysis. They have given those guidelines. So please check the Equator Network using this website, and then you have idea of what they are talking about there. So please let me see what you have to say. If you have questions, if you have thoughts, please let's discuss.
Thank you so much, Prof. This is John.
Okay, go ahead, brother.
Yes, we were wondering, since some of us did not attend the morning session yesterday, and we've been asking if anybody had an idea of what our group is supposed to work on.
Yeah, so if you want to watch the video is on your YouTube channel, but if not, go to your Dropbox folder for your group. It is very explained there. It's very explained what you should do in that. There is a document that has described what you should do. And if you go to the video of yesterday, you watch the introductory part. I first explain what I expect you in that work to do. And then if you also go to the Dropbox folder, you have a folder called lecture slides, which I put there after the lesson yesterday, so that you can see this. Yeah, you can see this. You can see the slides that contain what you should do. So all the information are out there, so that you can do your work easily. Okay, Olayinka.
Okay, thank you very much.
No problem.
Yeah, Professor Wright, thank you very much for the presentation. So I have just about, it's a single question, but yet interwoven. Talking about protocol publishing or submitting protocol, I think what I understand it to be here for me in Nigeria is submit before especially those of us in the biomedical, before you do your work, you are expected to submit your proposal to an ethic committee who will look at it, scrutinize it. After much back and forth, then they will approve and the proposal and give you an ethical approval number certificate. Now, I'm doing that, for example, in UI. If I do that, that does not translate that international bodies have the protocol. yes, I submitted my protocol. It has been scrutinized. It has been accepted. So now, like the case you were mentioning, that somebody submitted a work for publication, and by, because it did not submit the, the protocol, you can use, it means it didn't follow the way it should be. So I followed the way it should be, for example, but there is no way the international community can know that I'm working on this. So if eventually somebody else has worked on it, for example, and peradventure published just before I publish, I mean, it's like all I've done for those years is, somebody else has done it. No need of me publishing it anymore. So I don't know what you have to say to that. Then talking about publishing protocol, is it about submitting my, okay, let me see the methodology. For example, if we talk about methodology or the protocol step by step, submitting it to a journal. So that's what they will look at. After looking at it, they will keep it at, okay, when I submit my entire work, to be easy for them to review. Mind you, from a single work or from a single work, yes, I can get as much as 2 or 3 papers. So when I'm submitting that for them, are they publishing that protocol in codes? Because you're talking about publishing of protocols. So those are some of the things that I just want to clarify, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Olayinka. Those are a very pertinent question, and I think those are questions I want to hear for clarification. When what you have described that you have done is not the protocol publishing. When you submit to the ethics approval board, that is not what I mean by registering or publishing your protocol. What you have done there is that you want to have ethics clearance for your study. And the ethics board does not reveal your study to others. It is within the ethics board, and they review that to see whether it meets the criteria of doing what you need to do. And if they are happy, they approve that go ahead and do your study. Once the ethics board has approved your study, you have the right to go now. So the next stage you do, if you want to follow the reproducibility process, and of course, before you send it to ethics board, you're following the reproducibility process because you develop the protocol, you develop the study design before you start the study. So the reproducibility process here with regards to publication is that now go to a journal that publishes study protocols, look at their requirements, they outline what they want you to do, and then write your protocol in that way. What the ethics board has required is not usually the same as the journal will require. And so you need to reformulate it into a journal and the way the journal wants it to be. And so once you have done that, you send it to the journal for publication. At the same time, if, for instance, you're doing a clinical trial or you're doing a systematic review or you're doing a cohort study or something like that, you find it's a platform that registers the studies and submit your protocol there as well. And in those platforms, what the journal require to publish your protocol may not be what those platforms. Usually, those platforms is a mini part of your protocol that you register there. So, just a minute, just answer this urgent question. So the thing there is that I'm trying to say the ethics approval you get the ethics board is not a publishing place. It's not a registering place. They're just assessing the ethics of your study. So take the next step, and it is when you have published it, when you have registered it, that the international body you're talking about here can then see what you have done. You see, I will show you something here. This is one of the study. I will come to the next question you have asked. This is my study, As you know, I'm working in the area of asthma respiratory disease, and this is a very interesting aspect of my study, in which I'm looking at the role of sex steroids, um, on asthma. And so in this protocol, I describe what we want to do. You can see this journal publishes protocol. This is we are using a primary care database in the UK, and we have described what we want to do. And so here we describe several aims we want to deal with. So this is the protocol of the study. But now we have published the studies, and now we have about 4 papers that have come from this, were published. So this protocol gives the big picture of what we want to do. And you can have several papers that describe one aim or 2 aims together, and you find a way that it's not the idea of just dividing your papers here and there, making many papers, but assessing whether this one can stand alone to give the message. So we have published 4 papers just based on this protocol. I think that answers the second part of your question on whether
Very much.
Yeah.
Of course, Professor Waro, of course, thanks very much. It has really cleared you've answered the 2 questions. I really appreciate. But I don't know, is it possible, how do one identify, 2 more questions, please. I'm sorry for taking time. How do one identify all these journals that deals with protocol publishing? Then again, that's one. Then the second one, in your write-up now, in your eventual publication, after the protocol publishing, can you cite that your protocol publishing as in the protocol publication? Can you cite it as, or can you cite it in your work? And again, well, I know you can cite it, but can you add it as part of your publications? Thank you.
Yeah, of course. It's a publication. It has gone through peer review process, and it's published in a journal. So there's nothing stopping you from including as your it's part of your publication. If you, for instance, if you go to PubMed, which is a database for the health and biomedical sciences, if you search my name, it appears there as that is where I got it from now. So there's nothing. If you want to develop your CV, it should be part of your CV.
Thanks very much.
Yeah. So finding the journal, I mean, this is a question that you need to ask yourself. If you know the journals in your field, you should be able to know which ones publish protocols. And if not, please ask senior colleagues, ask other colleagues which journal in your field. Some journals are general. For instance, like PLOS ONE is a general journal. So, and they publish protocols. So they publish from every field, at least as far as I know. And so you can, and they publish protocol. So you can use such general journals, or you can look for the journal in your specific areas that publish protocols.
Thanks very much. I really appreciate this.
Yeah, it's 12 o'clock, and we don't want to do African time here. Let's do as we did yesterday. If you have any question, please just keep it. When we return, we are going to take it. But group 1, please note that you will be, group 2, know that your nugget is coming immediately after the break. So see you in 1 hour, and thanks for this morning hour.